Hello, and welcome to Moving Forward with Backup Care. I'm Piper Olson, Director of Client Services for Bright Horizons, and I'm pleased to be speaking with you here today. For those of you who are less familiar with Bright Horizons, we're an organization with a 28-year history. We support more than 850 employer partners, and we pride ourselves in offering services that help employers maximize human performance. We offer our services within our own organization, and as a result, have been named one of Fortune's 100 best companies to work for 15 times. Before we get started, let me review with you some housekeeping items. To see the slides, be sure to follow the link on the registration confirmation email you received. If you're using computer speakers and experience issues, please dial into the conference number provided. If you experience any technical difficulties, please click the Help button at the bottom of your screen and somebody will assist you. I'm joined here today by my colleagues Melissa and Yvonne, and we're pleased to meet you remotely. I will let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Piper. This is Melissa Anderson. I'm the founder of Sitter City's Employer Program, and I'm very pleased to be here for the discussion today.
So I'm Yvonne Lynch, Vice President of Client Relations here at Bright Horizons. I'm also happy to be here, and I work mainly with clients who purchase our backup care programs.
So today's discussion will focus on employer benefits of our Bright Horizons Care Advantage program. Yvonne, Melissa, and I are going to share with you what we've learned with our more than collective 20 years of experience working with 500 employers who use these supports with their employees. You know, our audience here today is quite diverse, just like our clients. Some of you come from large organizations with more than 100,000 employees, and others of you are smaller with just a few hundred employees. Some of you come from major cities like New York and San Francisco, and others of you come from quite rural areas. So one fantastic element of this program is that it can serve each and every one of your organizations in every city, every town, and any county nationwide. The Post-it notes on this page might look familiar to you. They might be on your refrigerator or on your computer monitor, or their thoughts just reeling in your head. And guess what? They're real-life distractions that keep you and your employees from being focused or even present at work.
Yes, Piper, this is Melissa. And let me tell you, as a manager, this is the stuff that really just causes heartburn. I live in Chicago, and as you know, it has been a crazy year for weather. Sub-zero, relentless snow. In January, my team and I were coming down to the finish line in one of our key projects. And can I tell you that school was closed for 6 days in 1 month? 6 days. I don't know how we could have done it without dependent care support.
I completely agree with you, Melissa. I have the opportunity to work from home, and having someone come in the house and take care of my son on snow days is just a godsend. So as you can see, Bright Horizons Care Advantage can solve these issues, these Post-its, for all of us, but at the same time, it creates a real value to employers as well. So Bright Horizons Care Advantage might be a familiar term for some of you and might be new for many. This is our product that's been expanded. It's an expanded dependent care solution that includes Backup Care Advantage and Bright Horizons Care Direct. Backup Care Advantage has been a product that we've been offering for 10 years. We're going to talk about that today. And Care Direct is a newer offering. The program has 2 prongs of support for your workforce. The Backup Care Advantage piece is a full-service, comprehensive backup solution for breakdowns in care that is majority funded by the employer. Care Direct, however, is a self-service tool that allows your employees to secure care arrangements for regular or occasional care needs. We will go into this in more detail, but what's important to retain is that Bright Horizons Care Advantage can solve these dependent care challenges for each and every one of us. Yvonne, you meet with our clients on a regular basis. What are they telling you?
Yes, Piper, what we hear from clients is that programs they offer need to provide real supports to employees so that they can deal with a range of real-life situations. So I think there are probably 3 main things that we hear from clients. The first, from those who offer backup care programs already, is that they want to maximize the program's potential. So this means making sure that employees really understand the scope of the program, and that can literally mean saying things like it's not just childcare, and making sure that they know it can do so much more. Another thing that we hear all the time is that employees need to be engaged and productive at work. So again, there's a real interest in providing supports to employees to help them deal with all of the challenges that they're facing outside of work. Of course, while there is a desire to do the right thing for employees by offering a backup care program, organizations also need to check the box on business value. And from that perspective, the true value of backup care is the business continuity it provides. More and more, we're hearing that business continuity isn't just a competitive advantage for organizations, it's really a competitive requirement. And this is particularly critical in certain industries like healthcare or utilities, for example. But really, having employees actually be at work and productive, that's something that almost every client we work with is trying to both achieve and to measure. On that point, business continuity can really be very dramatic, like dealing with disruptions caused by hurricanes or massive forest fires, or as incremental as those occasional days of work lost due to breakdowns in regular child care or elder care arrangements, like those snow days. I've had those lately too. By the way, those incremental days, they really add up. An average of 5 days lost per employee every 6 months. That's a lot of days. That's a lot of backup care. Let me give you a recent example about how Backup Care Advantage addressed one of the business continuity needs for our clients. Going back to Melissa's point about the weather, this winter we've all had to deal in one way or another with the disruptions caused by all the snow and ice storms all over the country, really, not just here in the Northeast. When these weather emergencies happen, Bright Horizons mobilizes our people. I mean, we had teachers sleeping overnight in centers up and down the East Coast recently to ensure that the centers could open the next day. And when Georgia was in a weather state of emergency recently with schools and offices and most of the roads closed, businesses still had to be functional. We were working proactively with clients to make sure that their employees knew that they still had a backup care solution so that someone could be, say, watching their children while they worked upstairs in the spare bedroom. Clients tell me over and over that when employees feel supported during these times, they have much more positive feelings towards their employer, which leads to increased engagement and productivity.
That's right, Yvonne. You know, I recently learned, and I'm not sure, Yvonne and Melissa, if you're aware of this, but in the state of Florida, not only is business continuity a nice to have, but it is in fact a requirement. Healthcare organizations are required to have dependent care solved in their business continuity plans for their workforce. So oftentimes we speak to human resources people about programs like Care Advantage, and that makes a lot of sense. But it might make sense for us to start thinking about talking to risk management folks as well, and HR people bringing their risk management partners involved, because it's a requirement for many. Melissa, in your role, you meet with clients regularly too. What are they telling you about the impact of employees' dependent care challenges on their organizations?
Piper, employers are certainly recognizing that in addition to emergency backup care, comprehensive care solutions are critical to employees' ability to be focused and present at work. Many families need ongoing caregiver support, such as after-school sitters, summer sitters, and full-time nannies. Our clients are finding that it's key to help employees find solutions for their families' ongoing, dynamic, and changing needs. Also, employers are recognizing that dependents come in all shapes. For a pet owner, finding the right pet care while away from home is an absolute priority and a major distraction from work if not solved. Employees only have so much bandwidth, and let's face it, particularly for working moms out there like me, we are faced with the reality that there are only so many hours in every day, and without the support, our bandwidth literally gets squashed like that poor guy here on the left. As a result, there's just no question that employer suffers the impact on less engagement, reduced productivity, and increased absenteeism.
Yes, Melissa, I totally agree. The reality is that no matter how committed, employees have a limited amount of time and energy. So the extent to which employers help them to come to work ready to be engaged and productive really does have an enormous implication for the well-being not just of their people but also their organizations. I can also tell you from working with our clients and employees over the last several years, we get great feedback on this benefit. The employees who use it when their care breaks down give direct feedback to us through our user surveys, and they often include in their comments stories and anecdotes from the end users themselves. So that can be, the preschooler who gets to go to real school for an occasional day, or sometimes an elder relative who really enjoyed the company of a caregiver providing companion care. And of course, the client liaisons that we work with themselves, they frequently tell us that an important factor of backup care is helping them realize their overall business goals.
And we know that 80% of our users stated that backup care was one of the best benefits that their employer offered. And in the spirit of what you were talking about, Yvonne, in the surveys that we asked people after they used care, 75% actually, indicated that they had no other option, that if this program weren't available to them, no doubt they would have missed work because they had nowhere else to turn. So it's truly a valuable service for employees.
Absolutely.
So those of you who know me know I like statistics and I like data. Making the business case is important for many companies to be able to implement a new service. So we're going to turn right now and survey the audience to find out if they might be able to discern some of the leading reasons why our Care Advantage users feel this program is great for them. So in front of you is a poll question, and as I read it, please select all answers that you believe might apply. Which of the following employer objectives do you think are supported by employee access to backup care? Again, please click all that apply. Concentrating on the job and being productive, meeting job performance expectations, working scheduled shifts, or pursuing or accepting a higher position. Now, while you guys are pressing the buttons here, I just want to remind you that we are taking questions, and we do hope to answer some of your questions at the end of this session. So please fill out on the bottom in the Q&A widget, and we'll make sure to get to those if we can. So here are the results that came back. It looks like, wow, you guys are pretty close to what we learned from our users. So you're a little bit lower. What we learned in the top three is that over 90% of people surveyed said that the top three reasons were the most valuable to them and felt that those should be valuable to their employer. And on the bottom, and this is probably going to be a surprise to you guys, 75% said that Backup Care Advantage, Bright Horizons Care Advantage, was a program that allowed them to pursue or accept a higher position. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great data, Piper. We already mentioned that employees lose an average of about 5 workdays every 6 months due to breakdowns in child care and elder care. There are other measures, too, of how the program supports employees. For example, users of the Backup Care Advantage program tell us that the service saves them an average of 16 work hours every time they use it.
Wow.
16 work hours. And about 3 out of 4 backup care users also tell us that the availability of backup care was an important factor in their decision to return to work after a leave. So, that speaks to really the importance of providing the care for people who are really looking to advance women within their organizations. So with all that being said, I think it's really not surprising that employees find that our backup program is so useful to them. It really addresses both planned and unplanned needs. My kids are in school, but I have to deal all the time with those random holidays and teacher training days that throw off my work schedule. And I turn to the program to help fill those gaps, as well as the urgent needs that also pop up. What I love is how easy the program is to use. I usually just log into my online account to place my reservation, and that's it. I'm done.
Well, that's interesting, Yvonne, because we allow people the opportunity to secure their care online, just as you've indicated, but we also allow them to do it telephonically. And what we found is the vast majority of people who secure the care actually use the phone. And I think that's got to be because when you're in a stressful backup situation, not only is it nice to know that somebody's actually taking that responsibility that you've just handed off, but it's so nice to hear an empathetic voice.
Oh, yeah, it's so nice to just hand off the problem and know that it's going to be solved. And the fact that the contact center is there 24/7 as well, that's just huge. That being said, we know that Backup Care Advantage can't take care of every need that employees have. And going back to what I said earlier about employee productivity, there really can be any number of things that are going on in employees' lives that can be a distraction to them. Melissa, maybe you can talk a little bit about how CareDirect addresses some of those other needs.
Sure. Center City, as part of CareDirect, our matching technology gives employees the tools to find pre-screened local caregivers for their family to solve a very wide range of in-home care needs. So CareDirect helps employees find caregivers that, again, are a fit for ongoing needs. For example, employees can find that perfect nanny for their newborn infant or the after-school sitter who can drive the kids to practice, is a math whiz, has experience with ADHD, and, well, isn't allergic to the cat.
Well, right, and speaking about pets, Melissa, you know, if you think about this benefit equity, CareDirect allows pet care too. And so for employees that have pets, real work conflicts can arise if they don't have arrangements to care for their animals when they're at work or even when they're traveling. That's really a headache. And most pet owners, boy, they love their pets just like moms love their children.
Boy, they sure do, Piper.
So, Melissa, another component, you know, elder care is a real challenge. You know, my parents are in their 80s, and it can come up on me any day. You know, I'm aware of it. I'm not prepared for it. And when people get thrown into that situation, they're not exactly sure kind of even where to start or how to handle it. So, you know, Years Ahead is a component of CareDirect. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You know, Piper, one of the unique challenges with ongoing senior care is that often employees need help determining the type and level of care that is right for their loved ones. With our Years Ahead senior care solution, employees can connect with care advisors that guide them through this difficult and many times complicated decision-making process. In addition, employees can find the local solution for their loved one, whether that's an in-home companion or a facility-based solution with assisted living or even memory care.
And if I can just say here, too, another thing that's a real stressor for employees is the access to and affordability of center-based high-quality childcare. So the CareDirect program, it does address that as well by providing employees with access to preferred enrollments for full-service care and even tuition discounts at some centers.
Yeah, and our clients ask for that. You know, affordability in this tough economy is really important to people, and employers recognize that financial fitness is something that they need to address with their workforces. So being able to even customize Care Advantage for that matter to make it more affordable for your workforce is something that our clients take care of.
Yeah, it's a great fit with our clients' wellness and well-being programs.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Well, we're at about 20 past the hour, and I want to be conscientious about people's time. I enjoy this dialogue and really could talk to you guys forever. I know we feel very passionate about what we do. But I do want to summarize a little bit for folks here and leave some time to take some Q&A. So just to summarize, you know, employees have an array of potential challenges that can derail them from their jobs. And absenteeism creates anxiety for absolutely everybody. You know, quality employees, they don't want to be absent from work, and they certainly don't want to appear unreliable. They don't want to put the stress on their coworkers that when they're not there, somebody else has to pick up their work. And absenteeism for employers can result in some real business issues. It can be lost revenue. It can be compromised customer service. I mean, imagine in healthcare, you know, the nurse just doesn't show up for the day, and that can really rattle the patient. And important deadlines can be missed. So with the complete and comprehensive service of Bright Horizons Care Advantage, you can really implement a business tool, and it's packaged as a benefit to employees. So, gosh, isn't that a win-win for everybody? And I just want to remind people, again, don't forget risk management. They certainly can be a player in the process of bringing concepts and ideas like this into your organization and help you advance the agenda through your company. So again, let me remind you to submit some Q&As. We have some here already that I am prepared to address and pass on to my peers, but keep them coming. So the first question we have here, would you explain to me again how these two elements can work together to help employees. So that makes a lot of sense. We've talked to you guys about the Bright Horizons Backup Care Advantage component of it and the Care Direct component of it. So, Yvonne, I think you probably can give us a really good example.
Yeah, let me give you a child care example, and maybe, Melissa, you could chime in with an elder care example.
Sure.
It's a great question, but let's use the example, say, of an employee whose nanny quits. So for the first couple of weeks, they can use Backup Care Advantage to fill that gap while they look for another caregiver. And then that's where Care Direct comes in. So they can use that piece of the program to do a nanny search or a search for a child care center. And if they do choose center-based care, they also have the availability of both the preferred enrollment and potentially the tuition discounts available to them. So that's a really good example of, how the arch of how the program might be used right through a situation. But Melissa, on elder care, I'm sure there's another great example that's similar.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I think a typical example on the elder care side would be that, let's say mom has an unfortunate fall and breaks a hip, which is unfortunately pretty typical. Now, Backup Care Advantage will serve to support that immediate recovery time, but often the following challenge is the question of, should mom or dad be living in a more supported environment, such as assisted living? And that's where the Care Direct Years Ahead solution steps in, after Backup Care Advantage, to help the employee both determine the right level of care for their loved one and then to go ahead and find that right new home for them.
Thank you, Melissa and Yvonne. I think those are both fantastic examples. So somebody's asked a question here, and I think this is a good one. I've heard it before. How do you avoid people using this as their regular care? Do they have a maximum number of days that they can use to use this service? So I'm going to ask you, Yvonne, if you would take that question.
My microphone wasn't on. There's going to be two answers to that question. The first is as regards Backup Care Advantage, and the other is with regard to Care Direct. For the Care Direct piece, there's no limit. Employees can use that piece of the program as often as they like. Again, it's direct care, so there's really no issues there. For the Backup Care Advantage piece, we really work with our clients to determine what the maximum number should be for employees because, again, there is a realization we do not want it to be regular care. And if employers want to subsidize regular care, we have a whole other webinar for that. So we'll work with them to determine their business goals, essentially, and figure it out. But we can benchmark against industries and across our entire client base to help them figure out what the right number is.
Terrific. Thank you. This is a nice question coming in here. It kind of saddles on the full-service care you just mentioned, Yvonne. My organization has an on-site child care center. Our issue is care when kids get sick. Can this program help with sick kids? And I'm glad this question came up because we didn't actually talk about sick care as the three of us were talking through this. And this is, quite frankly, one of the reasons why many of our corporate child care centers clients purchase Care Advantage, because when children are sick, and not so sick that they can't be home, but that they can't be in a child care center. For those of you out there that don't have child care centers, there are strict licensing requirements about that. So yes, Bright Horizons Care Advantage program does accommodate sick children or sick elders in-home environments. And there's a question that I think backs this up very well, and I'm going to ask Yvonne to answer it. And I think this is an interesting one. I think this revolves around registering and making sure we know who the users are. But they say, do you ever hear feedback from people that people are concerned about, quote-unquote, strangers coming into the home? And how do we reassure people that the people coming into their home are quality people?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good question. We have a very rigid process for vetting the caregivers in our network. And, again, I think that we could have a whole other webinar on that, but we can certainly talk to anybody out there about the processes that we have in place. But I will say that on Backup Care Advantage, we do actually encourage people who are a little nervous about having somebody that they don't know into their home to either be present for the first time that they use in-home care, so maybe working from home. Or we can also arrange for an introductory call to happen, before the care ever takes place. So we really do try and alleviate those fears, but we do hear that all of the time. And, it's funny because I know that when clients are first implementing in-home care, sometimes they're nervous and they think, oh, my employees are never going to use this. And fast forward a year and half of their use is in-home use. It happens all the time. So people get used to it very quickly.
And that's the right statistic. It is half of our use is in-home care. So people get past that. I think another important part of that, and you touched on it very briefly, Melissa, is registration. People tell us when they sign up for the program what it is they're looking for, the kind of caregiver they're looking for, and the needs of what their loved one is going to need. And so that obviously matching technology applies here as well. So we're getting a lot of questions about pricing, and I want to address that. I certainly don't want to avoid it. The pricing for Care Advantage is customized based on the workforce demographics and also the employer's business needs. So we would be happy at no obligation to any of you folks here on the phone to provide an estimate for your workforce. What I can say, though, with certainty is that the reduction in absenteeism alone that you can achieve from this program almost always more than fully covers the cost of the program, not to mention all of the other benefits we mentioned here today. So I think we're going to wrap up, and I want to thank everybody for joining us to today's webinar. A link to the PDF of the slides of the event will be emailed to you in just a few days. And if you wouldn't mind, please doing us a favor and take a couple of minutes to complete the survey at the end of this event. We always want to make sure our webinars are valuable to you, and we take your feedback seriously. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day.